All right, all right. We're back for week 3. We have Chelsea on today. Chelsea's our chief operating officer and has been with the company for close to 8 years now, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun. Doesn't feel like 8 years.
I feel like not for the most part, no.
All right, good. For the most part, it's been a pretty good run. I mean, we've had our craziness over the years, and I think that's why it's good to have you on today, as we're in the early stages of this podcast to talk to entrepreneurs and hear our journey. But I mean, I think that that we had some bad days at the beginning, and there were some days that were hard, and there were some days that we had to organize things, and we had to stop just running and gunning like a small little company hustling to starting to put protocols in place. And again, you always said to me, you can't hire employees if you're not going to take care of employees. So you came in and you put together very shortly after coming in a handbook, an HR procedure. You hired an HR company to come in and kind of manage the staff so that they had the help that they needed, right?
Yeah, I think around the time there was a couple employees who started who just were a little lenient in the way they did things. And I remember saying, like, the job that I came from, I was like, they had a handbook in place, and like we followed that. And I remember even around the holidays when I would travel for Thanksgiving, and we wouldn't even know when we hired someone like how to run the PTO. So I was saying we need to come up with the entire handbook and have that all in play, and it was all very new to us, and like them telling us the law, and we were like, this can be really hard to follow ourselves, never mind having it with employees. So that was definitely a big change for the company, and now it's like nothing to us.
Now it's like second nature, but at the time, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs in the same category, as you start to hire, there's other things than just hiring an employee. You have to hire them, but you have to have a protocol and a plan in place, like the handbook, the HR policies. We also implemented a retirement savings account for people too, like an IRA, a 401k rather, not an IRA, a 401k to let people start saving for retirement. And if you remember, early on, we brought in somebody else that we had, we all sat around the table, and then no one wanted to subscribe to the plan in the early days because everybody was so young, and they didn't, it wasn't as important. But now we have we started a new plan right before COVID, right? We have, then people were contributing, and more people contribute now. So, but at the time, we were ahead of it, but the employees weren't there. But with the handbook and the PTO and having a formalized process, that was an early success. I think that you came in and took care of, so that we could just the staff, the behind the scenes, on top of doing the work, they knew that they had these things. So.
Yeah, and I think being a small company, you don't realize all the little things that go into play, like when people have your equipment and certain things, and they could just walk away. And like a handbook holds the company accountable as well as the employee, and people know what to expect, and it just has a clear understanding, which I think helped with hiring. And now people get their handbook, even though it's 50-something pages or whatever it is, but they know what to expect. They can go in there, they can see what the company has to offer, and it is a very clear understanding.
Sure. I love it. It was nice meeting up with the HR company this week and having lunch with them and just kind of talking to them, because if you remember the early days of the HR company were also a little tricky. We kind of learned how to work with each other, like at the beginning. So
yeah.
Now it's very easy, very organized, very we have our yearly meeting, and life is good. But that was that time. What was that? That was 2016 when you first came on board.
Yeah, 2016.
2016. That was beginning of the year in that year, and then later in that year we we took over a limo company. So
yeah, the first one.
That was that was interesting. That was only 3 months or 4 months after you came, because Mike came in June that year, late May, June, and then we started looking at vehicles on top of starting to hire and grow the wingman team. Now we're looking at vehicles, and we're learning about insurances and things like that. And I think that's for an episode down the line, and we'll bring Mike in on that one, and he could tell us about the beginning days of that. But and then not too long after that, we went to Manasquan. We were outgrowing our first office in Brielle, and we were looking for places to go, and we found Manasquan, and
Yeah, and I remember specifically my mom at the time. We were so busy with opening Manasquan, the new transportation companies happening, trying to figure out how to get the insurance, all that it was Valentine's Day, and I was at the office super late. And I know you were, I'm not sure if Mike was, and my mom, I was single at the time, and my mom's like, oh, you must be on a date with someone and the family doesn't know about them. And I was like, no, I'm at work, unfortunately. And it
I was
like
right there with you. So
yeah, so they thought I was on this secret date.
secret date, I love it. So,
Yeah. And we were opening Manasquan and the transportation company
I
at
can
the time.
tell your mom with confidence, and if she needs, I can call her and validate.
I don't think she's worried about it anymore.
That you didn't have a secret date that night. That was you, me, and the insurance company going back and forth on
Yeah.
procedures and policies. And if you remember, also there was that one night right around the toy drive that we were stuck in. At that point we were in Manasquan, I believe, when we were in that long insurance meeting, and it felt like it was never going to end. And we had the toy drive the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was just a nightmare. So, but then, Manasquan was just crazy. Like, I look back at Manasquan now, and every morning when I pull up, I smile. But like at the time, it was hell. It was.
Yeah, there was
part of my language. It was fucking hell. Like, it was nuts.
Yeah, going into it, there was a lot of work that needed to happen, and also a lot of work that needed to happen to make employees comfortable with working there.
Yep.
And that, I think, was the most challenging part, because it was kind of like, all right, we had to go in, see this vision, and then see how it's all going to go to play. When we went from just like a small business complex that like we had other offices with different people in it, so it was like almost shared at the same time, and then going to a building that was our own and how we were going to present it and all that. So I remember when we went in, and I was like, I thought the guy at the time was going to kill me, because I was like, oh, we're going to take down this wall, move this. And then the next day I went in and I was like, never mind, we're not doing that anymore. And at the time, me and you were working there, and one other employee, and the rest.
Jilly.
And I think the rest we had, and this was before a work from home thing, and you were very strict about having people work from home, but the rest of the employees were working from home during the construction of Wingman Manasquan.
No. During the construction, they were still working in Brielle in our first location.
There was time, though, that people were working.
Yeah, there was 2 to 3 weeks in May of 2018 when our tenants were pushing us to move into Brielle.
And people worked from home.
And then we had to send people. We let people work from home for a couple weeks. This is before working from home was cool, because we weren't 100% ready. And you, me, Jill, and Mike worked in the office in Manasquan before it was really ready. And then Jill, I remember she didn't even have a table. She didn't even have the granite top start, and she was working there was like plywood on it.
Yeah, we were working on like horses and plywood.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at Manasquan, and that was our second office. It's our primary look. It's our corporate headquarters at this point. We had no business building Manasquan and getting Manasquan going when we did. We learned a lot. We were premature. We were, when you think about it, we didn't have the right finances. We didn't have the right education in the background. And we didn't have I don't think we had the right team in place to build it. I mean, we got through it, and it looks beautiful now. But there were some hiccups along the way. And again, if I could go back in time, I would do it 100% differently. But we did it. We hustled through it. We got it done. I mean,
I also think, like anything, when you open up the walls of something that you buy, you don't expect what we saw when we opened up, especially the downstairs, doing an open concept when it wasn't an open concept, and then you open it up and there's like
the spaghetti wire.
Yeah, from back in the day, the
HVAC
phone lines that they used to plug and play. So it was a completely different, something we've never seen. And then we also were just business people, so we were trying to run a business and completely do a huge renovation that both of us have never done. So
and we didn't have account managers at the time. So I was selling the jobs, I was installing the jobs, I was working with the customers. And yes, we had Tony, and we had Amy, and we had other people, but at the same time, I was still the main go-between between the customer and our team. Like, we didn't have, Dave's team didn't exist at that point in time. So, we got Nicole right after we moved into Manasquan. And so during that time, as the customers are calling and we're emailing, how many days did, back and forth, we were back and forth multiple times between our, Brielle location and this new Manasquan location. And, even though it was close, it still took time. And, but thankfully we got it done. The downstairs looks cool. It looked cool when it worked. And, Tony was here last week and talking about how much fun that they had on that, in the downstairs, and how that open concept, and they played music and they talked, but they still got their work. Ultimately at the end of the day, they worked so well as a team. I loved the camaraderie. I mean, even when we had the wiffle ball game and everybody was hanging out down there afterwards.
Yeah.
There was such a camaraderie to that that workspace down.
Yeah, I do remember the workspace, and because my office is right at top of the stairs for most of you that know who've been in the building, and they were sometimes so loud downstairs, but in a good way, almost like it sounded like children having the time of their life, that I would say to Tom, I have to go downstairs and see what they're doing. Are they even working? And
they always got it done.
And then one time they were dead silent for a really long period of time, and I was like, they're up to no good. And
that was after the wiffle ball game.
And we went down there, and they were all laying on the floor because they were sweating and just beat up, and they couldn't do anything. But I was like, they're never this quiet, almost like I'm talking about kids. And it was funny, and they were all just laying there. They're like, we just need a minute, because we had this big wiffle ball game with the whole staff, and we had a bunch of interns at the time that were just coming for a summer for college. They needed credits, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that wiffle ball game was fun that day. So when you look at the renovation itself, it probably took us 4 months, start to finish. 5 months, start to finish, to get it all done. And again, that when you're an entrepreneur and now you're juggling your mortgage payment, your rent payment at one place, you're buying a building, so your mortgage payment, and then the build cost. So it's a scary time, and you gotta believe in the. You got to believe in the process. You got to believe in what you're doing, because, when you look at it, and as I said off camera before to Andrew, is, you're working like crazy only to see your bank account go down. But, now when I look at it, it's, the building's great. We get so many compliments on it. Somebody was in from Long Island yesterday, again, from Long Island to the Jersey Shore to come visit, to have a meeting on a project they want to do. And the guy said to me, and it just makes you happy and smile. He says, I love pulling up and seeing a standalone building that says Wingman on it. So I mean, it really was cool. And I think as we continue our journey, there's going to be times that we think that that a rental is good for us, like in Belmar, and then there's going to be times where we're going to want to invest in the real estate based on where it is, what it has to offer us, based on the work that we're doing, and the investments we're looking to put forward. For our future growth. And and again, I was saying to Tony last week, I don't know if it was on the mic, or on camera or off, but now everything we look at is in a spreadsheet. We go back, you go back to the days of when we got involved with Shore and Shubu. It was it was a gut instinct. Now we look at everything and on a financial model. We've become more seasoned investors rather than just running and gunning. And at the time, everything always looks promising, and we all know that not always the case. But now we look at it more structured, and we've gotten a little old, we've gotten a little more conservative. But I think in a way, those young entrepreneurs, go do what you got to do and get started and take some chances. As I said in the first episode, I always said if it didn't work out being a business owner, I'd go back and get a corporate job. And then some days I wonder why I don't have just a corporate job, work 9 to 5, make my sales, and enjoy the rest of the time. But on the other side, as I look at all the great things that we've done, all the people we employ, all the nonprofits we help, all the give back we do, and so at this point, I don't imagine going back to
Yeah, and I'm sure you learn the most in those times. And I feel like during that time, you had to delegate, which at first was a really hard thing, because I think you ran the business on your own, and then you only had Tony and a few others. So when we were doing the building and the transportation, you really had to delegate, or otherwise, like you were like, we'll never grow.
You can't do everything. That's a great point. And when you think about grit and you think about growth and you think about where you want to go, you can't do it all on your own. And if you do it all on your own, you will fail. You can't. It's physically impossible. When you get involved with multiple things, you can't do it all. And as much as I would still like to, see what we're posting or see what we're doing, or talk to Mike about some of the rides that are going out every weekend. There's a lot of things that I can't do anymore myself, and I have to delegate out, because otherwise it just becomes a bottleneck. And in the process, you're going to annoy customers and clients, and you're going to ruin relationships because you're trying to micromanage the business. And and then that was hard. I mean, I remember the first time at the beginning, I used to say, I got to answer the phone every time.
Yeah.
Like, I have to, they're looking for me. And, now, 90% of the calls I don't take anymore, probably even a little bit more. I just take, there's the people, the old guys that have my cell phone number. And, again, if there's ever a problem, I want to know all about it. But for the most part, our team handles all those calls now and, runs the day-to-day of Wingman.
Well, yeah, going back to when we were talking about, there was a cell phone, and we would pass around the cell phone for who was going to answer.
Yep.
And like at the time, then we had someone after. So I started answering the phone, and then there was employees after me. But if they weren't around, I would still answer the phone, and they were answering the cell phone. It was almost like hot potato. Like I would pass it. Then if I would leave for the weekend, you would have this cell phone. So like it.
It was a Droid too. It
was a Droid.
How did you deal with that? Since you're all Apple all the time.
Yeah.
How did you handle answering a Droid phone?
It's pretty easy to just answer the phone. Anything beyond that, I probably would have been.
So you never texted on it.
I can learn any type of technology. I just am efficient in Apple products.
So it was a Droid phone. That was before we even had like a landline.
Yeah.
And now we answer. Now we have a main system, and we have. In all the offices we have
we
phones,
could transfer.
and we can transfer to cell phones now. And also, I think what's great now is with the technology, and shout out to Vantage Communications, our phone provider. But if that phone rings in Manasquan, it could also ring in Belmar too, which I think is pretty darn cool with the technology. Yes, we have a Belmar phone number geared for Belmar only, but we also have like if Kristen's out or Kristen, if the phone will ring here. Which I think is pretty cool that we can now answer phones in both locations, as well as Kristen also will transfer to our cell phones when we're on the road. What are you laughing about, Andrew?
Some other stuff.
Our guy is laughing. I see him smirking for the last couple minutes here. So I guess we're not in on the inside jokes of Andrew's podcast life, but call him out on it. So yeah, so I mean, the technology has helped us because we've been able to take things and move them in multiple places. And again, I think now it's more structured than it ever was. And it took us time before we had an admin assistant. Like we didn't do that, right? There were things. You helped with a lot of administrative tasks at the beginning just to help the business.
Yep.
But then it wasn't. It took us a couple of years before we had an admin that their whole job was to be an admin.
Well, yeah, I think in the beginning, Tony was really focused on web, but she would also, I remember when she was doing social posts, doing some writing things. So I think when the three of us were there and Karen, we were all just kind of anywhere someone could help or if they had a skill set that could make the business better, we were doing that. And a lot of the time just sitting at a conference room table to get projects moved along. So as much as none of us are skilled in every single aspect of the business, it also, we all, now me, you, and Tony, know practically every avenue of the business from working in each department, learning how it works, and so forth, really, besides when new technology comes and you just have to educate.
And conquered. It was we have to get this done today. How do we get it done?
And everyone just made it happen.
We all pitched in and got it done. And again, then Tony was like, listen, this is getting too much to do the social. And we went out and found the social person. And then, Tony said, I think we need a part-time coordinator. And we went out and found a part-time coordinator. And at the same time, we had more administrative work, and that's when we brought Jill in.
Yes.
And Jill's been with us for like 6.5 years probably.
Mm-hmm.
And Jill started out same kind of way, like, hey, we're gonna figure this out as we go. But and I think the best part about like somebody like Jill and Tony is they moved up, as well as yourself. They moved up each time as we had positions open at higher levels. We've always tried to hire from within, and I think that that's a testament back to trying to do right by the employees, like as we started this episode. And again, when you think about that grit and driving forward and the forces behind it, you need people you can trust. You need people that have your back. And I look at some of the early people, and they're still here with us, and they have our back. Like I text Jill this morning and I said, the toy drive's on December 12th and December 14th this year. I need your help. I'll reach out to your manager to kind of make sure that you're good to go those days. But like when I said to Jill years ago, hey, I need help on a toy drive, that has nothing to do with her job. Like,
yeah, I think that's what is so challenging being a small business and then growing into a bigger business, is that a lot of the times when you're small, you relate to the people because you have to trust them, and then you get very close with them. You have personal relationships with them. And then as you grow, a lot of structure and things have to come into play. So then it's fair to everyone. And then that's when it gets a little bit more challenging, because the way you did business and like how you had these social interactions with people just have to change in order to follow status quo, be fair, and then run the business efficiently and so forth. So I think that it has changed so much in that aspect. Like, we still have our relationships with the people from the beginning, of course, but things change as the business grows. So like, we're not involved in certain departments anymore, and we don't work with Jill, Tony as much as we used to. So
it was nice yesterday when we had lunch with Tony and we were in the car together, and like it was like the good old days, like just shooting the breeze, and like it's funny, like it's like 8 years ago all over again. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. Like, we're not in the day to day of their business, and we talk to them about bettering their departments and helping them work to achieve optimal success, but we're not in the day-to-day of what Tony does anymore, what Jill does anymore. And you got some new faces in Madison and Taylor, so it's interesting to watch these guys start to grow their business, and grow their aspects of the overall Wingman. And I think it's, it starts to take shape, and you have people that lead departments, and it's their job to help us get to that next level.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty cool to watch this go, and again, circling back to, as we kind of finish this up, looking back at Manasquan at the time, it was the hardest job. I just remember how miserable I was some days, and how it was going to end. Like, we didn't have a sign for a while. We didn't have outdoor, we didn't have the landscape done. The parking lot looked like a train wreck. And I always said we had to get inside first, because if we couldn't get inside, we couldn't work there. And we don't make money by having a nice parking lot. We don't make money by having a sign. We make money by having employees that are able to work in a safe environment inside. So that was always the goal, when we first started this. But it took a lot, and from as we think about young entrepreneurs doing it, I mean, if I look back, as much as I said it was crazy and hard, I would do it again. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The right challenge comes along now, I'll still take it on. Yeah. But I think you have to just think about it and make sure, know what you're getting into. And again, it's good, as Chelsea said, when you open up a wall, you don't know what's behind it. And I think that that's a safe kind of bet in business. There's times where, on the outside, everything looks easy and, this is going to be so simple. But every business that we've been involved with, every task we've taken on, big task we've taken on,
has that wall.
Something has a wall. And it might not be a physical wall, but, when you took on Shaw Luxury, there was challenges there. When we took on Shubu Enterprises and started dealing with trolleys, there was a wall there. When we went to Manasquan and bought a building, there was a wall there. And when we got to Belmar, there was some challenges along the way.
Yeah, and I think it all has to do with problem solving, and that's a main thing with what I've learned is You just have to figure it out and like not let the stress show on employees or other people. Like
You can't give
just
up.
you just have to
just
figure
work
it
through
out.
it.
So like you in any business, you have to be a really good problem solver, and sometimes it's always not the right, but then you learn from it and learn how to do better or figure it out next time. So it's always good to have those walls. It's just how you handle them says more than anything else.
And I think you have to. You're gonna have tough days, and you're gonna have. So learn from your mistakes. I always say, I never get mad at someone for making a mistake. I get mad at people when they make the same mistake again. So learn from your mistake. Look at the outcome. Look at how you could have done it better. And even in our world, like if I don't, if a customer doesn't move forward with a project, or a customer doesn't, is upset with something, I look at the interaction I made or our team made, and I'll ask our teammates, well, what happened? Tell me, kind of play by play it so that we can see what we could have done better the next time. And I think, when you look at our business as well as many entrepreneurs, you don't want to lose a customer or a relationship over something so silly or something so small. Like, somebody said to me, oh, I thought the price was going to be this, and it's, more. Like, you have to look at it. Like, you don't want to, give away your work and give away the, the time and the value that you bring to the table. But at the same time, is it worth a small amount of dollars than to figure out something that's beneficial? And there's a lot of entrepreneurs and there's a lot of people out there that will say, hold your ground and, hold your, know your worth. But on the other side of that is I work differently. I want to understand our worth, and I want our clients to understand our worth, but I'm not willing to lose a relationship over something small. And I think that comes back to just in everything we do, in all the relationships. Our business, and you and I, our world is based on relationships. Our world is not based on, anything. People like doing business with people that they trust and they like. And I think, since we've been running at this for, again, the last almost 8 years, we've always tried to put our best foot forward in everything we do. And I think that kind of shows in the give back and in the community stuff, as well as, in people wanting to refer us. I mean, our whole business is built around referrals.
Yeah.
So, I think this was great. I thank you for coming on. I know this isn't your favorite, activity, being on camera, but I think it was important to the, to our early viewers, and hopefully as our viewership increases, they'll see that, you play a very important role in the company. And again, I think you challenge me to do better while we do things like.
I think a lot of the times I'm more behind the scenes now. So, there's a lot of internal stuff that happens. I work with like different staff members, and like obviously work with you the most. But yeah, I think the business has grown in a way where like the spread out, the different departments, the different businesses, and I'm sure that will be another podcast down the road of the businesses all within one, and your parent organization, and how the nonprofit plays a huge role in all your businesses across the board. So,
and we have 2 NDAs in our hands right now for 2 businesses that are looking to get acquired. So, one of them called me this morning, I guess, looking for an update, and the other sent me a text last night and said the NDA's in our inbox. So we will get those signed. And, again, I think that's part of the entrepreneurial journey now, is trying to find the right businesses that, fit with us to continue the expansion. I still have a few years left in this game, so might as well make it enjoyable and fun, and a little bit of a challenge along the way.
yeah.
All right, so that wraps us up for week 3. I'm sure Andrew will make this great and make us look great, and we'll get it online in the next week. And we'll have to figure out who the next guest is for the next upcoming show. We're going to start putting on guests that are not employees, as I want to start to hear some people's story on grit and how what their challenges were, how they got started. Again, people now know the beginnings of us, but I'd love to hear other businesses, because I think that's gonna you hear similar stories, you hear different fights, how to make it, and you have some scrappy entrepreneurs out there. So we're going to put together about 30 people have reached out to me about being
It's awesome.
on.
Yeah.
Andrew put out one post and said, like, we're doing this, and people were like, I want to be on this. And then now, after people have started listening, I've been getting some texts, and emails that say like, if you ever want to, talk and hear my story, let me know. So I have the team drafted up some questions so that we could kind of screen and, start to find people that fit, a good good segment for what we're trying to accomplish here and trying to, our audience wants to hear about. So I'm excited for the upcoming weeks, and we'll get some new faces on.
That would be awesome, and I
Thank
think
you
everyone will
again.
learn from it.
Yeah. Thanks again for coming on. I think people
course.
will learn from it, and hopefully I can get you back in a couple weeks and talk more.